Hello, welcome to a special edition of the BATTASS Podcast, the Batman the Animated Series Show podcast, where we talk about Batman in all its forms. My name is Clay McCormick, and with me, recording in parts unknown today, is Sean Murphy. How you doing, Sean?
Good man, face to face, right?
Yes, first
Yeah.
time in a while, actually.
Last time we recorded like this, we had this microphone in my basement bar, and I think we talked about Red Hood.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that probably was the last time we did this in person, yeah.
So tell me about Red Hood. Tell me about how it was received before we get into my shit.
Yeah, we want to talk a bit about, Sean just finished Beyond the White Knight, which is the third book in the series that he's been doing, and so we're gonna have a little bit of a post mortem on that. And yeah, Red Hood was good overall. I got a lot of good feedback from people. Talking to people at the shows was really great
Yeah.
because they had nothing but good stuff to say.
Do you get more at shows? Do you get
Hmm.
more Red Hood comments or I like your horror podcast or Star Trek podcast comments?
Right now, it's probably more Red Hood.
Okay.
But it's up to you listeners to change that. So go check out the Rotten Horror Picture Show or the Penske File. But no, it's interesting because the conventions I did last year were the first ones really where actively the whole time people were bringing me stuff to sign
Yeah.
because, it's the first time I've done something anyone's ever read.
Yeah.
So,
Not totally true, but go ahead.
yeah, but it was actually great. It was I talked to a lot of great people. I mean, this is probably I'm assuming there are no IRS agents listening, but this was probably the most successful year I've had at conventions.
Yeah.
This was the first year I did New York, and
The table.
I had a table in New York. I sold out of an entire box of Bloody Hell copies, which
Yeah.
was amazing. Um, yeah, so it's been interesting because it's sort of like a it, I would say it's opened a door that I don't totally feel like I'm all the way through yet. But it's been interesting to look inside. Let's put it that way.
Right. What so um I've been having I've been doing this stuff for a while now
Hmm.
with certain degrees of success. And bringing you on board, I mean you've helped me since 2017, since the first book. Like I
Hmm.
said something here. But bringing you to shows, like I was aware that you're gonna get um thrown into the deep end in a way when you come with me because I'm used to having a line of people who it's like rapid fire meeting somebody, eh, you know, different readers, different things, whatever.
Hmm.
Like I'm sort of used to it. I know how to do it and save my energy. Whereas when you do it, you're very new to it, very raw to it. And I think after the first day, I think we were at San Diego, you were like, "How do you do this? Like, how do you have any energy?" And I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just used to it. But seeing you do it literally right next to me has been really interesting to see you go through that stuff.
Yeah. It was New York was physically exhausting for me. Um I'm used to talking to people at shows, but I think I definitely talked to more people in New York than I've ever talked to at a show. And on top of that, where it's a big place,
Yeah.
really loud, and we were talking through masks.
Oh yeah.
And so the whole weekend, I just felt my sides
Yeah.
constantly in pressure because I'm trying to project through this mask and
Yeah.
talk to people.
Yeah.
And like second day, I think I went back to the hotel and I was just like I couldn't get comfortable because I just felt like someone was
Yeah.
holding me around the waist. Um, so that was I feel like I need to take like vocal lessons or something, like
Oh
with a
yeah.
singer, so I know how to project without blowing my lungs out.
So I actually did take vocal lessons with a training
Did you
coach.
really?
Yeah,
No
I
kidding.
have friends in Portland who teach singing, and I just because they're friends and they were
Mhm.
starting up, I'm like, I'll take a class. I paid them for a session, I should say,
Yeah.
and they gave me some pointers on how to speak, how to project, and some because you were in a band, you sing,
Mhm.
so some stuff you probably already know is
Well, I make most of it up as I go. So,
so my problem when I first started podcasting was when you breathe in, you're from 0 to 5. So your breath can go up to 10, right?
mhm.
Found that I was breathing it from 0 to 5, and I would start talking at 5, and I would go down to 0.
Mm,
And the problem with that is you're not as loud as you want to be, and you find you start saying as much as you possibly can before you run out of breath at the very end.
sure. Yeah.
And that's what I used to do when I spoke. So now, here we doing it now. I take a full breath and I try to speak from 10 to 5. And
Mm,
that's what most singers do, or people they just get used to breathing that way. They also have like good posture, they lean back, keep their head up. So keeping a microphone like right now is not good because it's below us on the table. But normally at home I'll keep it above high. So it's just little tricks like that,
like Lemmy from Motorhead.
Yeah.
It's that weird coming down from. You ever seen the
Somebody
way?
does?
Yeah, it's like he sings with his head tipped all the way back, and the microphone like angled
Yeah.
down like this. It's
Huh.
very strange. I've never seen anybody sing like
That
that
might
before.
be what it is then. Yeah.
With that voice, probably. I mean, that growly
Well,
voice.
because most guys, because we're insecure and we're trying to sound cooler than we are, we tend to use very little air and try to speak below our register, which leads to voice cracking, which I
Mm.
do a lot, especially because I'm just now going through puberty. Um, but yeah, it's interesting. There's the whole science behind this stuff. Sorry, that went on longer than I wanted it
No, no,
to.
it's fine. Yeah, so it was interesting. New York was and San Diego was an interesting experience. Um, yeah, I'm looking forward to. I don't know how many shows I'm going to do this year, but it was one of those things where I kind of too late in the proceedings started to do the math in my head, where I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have like 6 books coming out there, 5 books coming out this year. I should probably make more
Yeah,
appearances, but
yeah,
that'll be it'll be nice though because Red Hood was only 2 issues, and like I kind of had to time things a little bit as far as convention shows. I was if I wanted it to be sort of within the realm of release or whatever.
yeah.
But this year I'll have multiple books coming out through the year, um, which I don't think we can talk about yet. But
Um, I think the Joker book is going to be talked about in a month, so we
yeah,
can probably talk about it now.
okay. Do you
You
want
want
to tell everyone what to expect?
to? So the spinoff from Beyond the White Knight will be a book called Generation Joker. It's about Joker's kids basically get kidnapped by Joker. He hijacks a Batmobile, and the pitch for me was, what if Joker was actually Knight Rider inside of a Batmobile, and he takes his kids and he takes them on a road trip to show them places in his past that had meaning for him in order to dissuade them from turning into him. And along the way, he runs into a lot of his old enemies, and things don't go as planned.
Yes. And to be specific, it's the hologram Joker
Yes.
that is downloaded into a portable drive that the kids have, and he can control the Batmobile, and yeah, it's all fun from there.
Yeah. So that was the one of the three spin-offs that I wanted to do, and you and my wife Colleen, or Katana as her stage name is, are co-writing that
Mhm,
with Mirka and Dolfo and Art, who's a
mhm.
really great Italian artist that we met. She has kind of a more manga influenced style, but I think it works really well as sort of like a punk YA type of feel to it.
Hmm.
So you guys are in issue 3 right now,
Yep, we just finished writing issue 3, so I think we're just getting around to starting issue 4.
right? We don't know when that's coming out, but it should be soon enough for us to release this, so it won't be a spoiler. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. We kind of have a bit of free reign to mess around in Gotham a little bit, so a lot of fun characters and events and action shows up and locations.
Right.
And I managed to work wrestling into it, which
This is your thing.
it is. We got the layouts back for the issue with the wrestling in it, and I kind of got the feeling that Merca didn't want to draw wrestling.
It's funny. I got the feeling Mirka doesn't like drawing cars.
But the pages look great, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
So those are the 6 issues in that series? Yeah. I
yes,
think so,
yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
I should know.
Yeah, I should know. Right.
It's funny because like I'm happy to um come up with spin-offs, but I told DC I can't micromanage these things. I need help.
Hmm.
So I sort of picked you and Colleen, who both written White Knight stuff before, to work together. to help take load off. So I'm included in your emails and I'm included in layouts and sketches, but especially towards the end of my own book, I really wasn't able to pay that much attention. I was sort of like leaning on you guys a lot.
Right.
Um, was it hard to share responsibility with Colleen?
No. I had never really co-written something
Right.
with someone the way that you and I co-wrote Red Hood,
Yeah.
but we weren't trading pages back and forth. And Colleen and I are literally splitting the issue between us,
Right.
which has been easier to do than I thought it was going to be.
That's good.
Because I think we work pretty well together.
Yeah.
And
That's
it
not what she said. Go ahead.
uh, and it's been nice because we each kind of have our things, I think, that we're kind of
Yeah.
interested in doing.
Yeah.
And so it splits relatively easily issue to issue between the
Yeah.
two of us, I think.
It's interesting because when I look at it, I know my wife's interested in r- writing YA, and she's really into like Joker's kids being kids. What do children who are 12 sound like?
Hmm.
What do they think about? It's kind of more her, what she's focused on. And then in Harley as well, because she helped me design Harley. I mean, you both did. But I know because you're an artist, you can break down layouts better and see things visually, whereas Colleen can't, and
Hmm.
she'll tell you that. So it's interesting because I'll say like, if there's a big fight scene, give that to Clay because Clay can see that in his head, and that's just what because you're used to the format.
I'll be honest, she's written quite a few of the fight
All
scenes, and
right, yeah,
they've come out good.
that's good.
So
I'm happy to be corrected.
yeah. No, it's fun. It's actually kind of funny because the way some of the stuff is shaken out is she's written a bunch of the fight scenes, and
Yeah,
I have ended up writing more of the. I've actually written a couple of the Harley and
great.
Neo scenes.
Well,
Spoiler.
we'll be why? So we're going to change your name to Riot. Why don't you
Yeah,
talk about that?
yeah. Neo Joker is
It's a terrible name. No one likes it.
it started as a placeholder and was never adjusted. And so we had been talking about changing her name to Riot for a long time, and we're finally going to do it in this book. So which is fun because
So when Neo was first introduced in Volume One, she first puts on the gear, a knife and all that. She wears like the pink and white and black makeup, and she walks out and she goes, "I'm not uh an afterthought or something." She goes,
she's it's the Joker's not something. He's a Riot.
"He's a riot."
Yeah.
So in that line, a few people who reviewed the book says, "I thought her name was Riot from now on."
Mm,
So, well, we kept it Neo Joker. And can I say that because it takes place in Neo Gotham eventually, the
mm.
Neo Joker isn't as lame, but it's kind of a tough pill to swallow.
It's
It's
it's a
not great. I don't love
it
it.
doesn't exactly roll off the
Yeah.
tongue, unfortunately. But yeah, but hopefully we tried to not do it arbitrarily and have it make sense. So
So we get kind of a Harley Ivy story with this too, which is nice.
yes, yep, there's some Ivy stuff in there. This book probably more than Red Hood uh, was me pushing the boundaries and being told I can't do that.
Yeah.
Because there was stuff I wanted to do with Ivy that I was told no. There was
No.
stuff I was wanted to do X, Y, and Z that we pulled back on, which is fine
Yeah.
because
Yeah. Colleen had to get told no a lot as well.
yeah.
It's
No, I think that's means you're going in the right direction if you're pushing the boundaries.
it's funny because like I think it would have been a good series if you wrote it alone, and I think it would have been good if she wrote it alone.
But since we're
It
together, it's
would
gonna
have
be
been different.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah, you guys are ruining each other.
Right? Yeah.
No, I think by working together, it was a risk because working with another artist and accepting criticism and accepting boundaries on which pages you're writing, what you're not writing, when to fight a battle, when to let it go.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I think that's what comics are. It's a collaboration. But I'm also, in my mind, I wonder what it would have been if you had written it by yourself and my wife had written it by herself. And I no
Mm.
doubt it would have been very different.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I think, but again, I think we do. I think we did mesh pretty well. I
Yeah,
mean, I think we've kind of been able to bounce things off and kind of
yeah,
meld pretty easily.
yeah.
But yeah. So you've just finished Batman Beyond the White Knight. It's your
Trilogy, man.
third series of 8 issues, telling very large, far-reaching story.
Do you think trilogies are a solid unit to end on? He's a movie guy.
Hmm.
Why a trilogy? Why not what what do you call it when you have four movies?
Quadrology?
Sure, quadrilogy.
A mistake?
Sure.
No. I don't know. I mean, if you have a story to tell, no reason not to keep telling stories, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
But if you're doing it, if you're going to Crystal Skull it, maybe no. Maybe it's good to stop with the Last Crusade.
It's a good phrase. Yeah.
Um,
Maybe Indy 5 will fix the Crystal Skull.
maybe, maybe,
I'm gonna bet hard now.
yeah. But yeah, you've been doing Batman pretty consistently for what, 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, started in 2018. It's been about 5 years. So, yeah, I feel very burned out.
Hmm.
The last year, I mean, you and we three of us went to San Diego, and I know you pulled my wife aside and said, "I think Sean needs a vacation." It seemed very stressed. I don't know if I was acting stressed or said I was stressed or my face, and I trust you both, so it means you're both looking out for me. And yeah, um, I uh, I really wanted to take as much time to do the art as I could to make this volume the best visually.
Hmm.
And I started out the first five issues more relaxed, like 4 pages a week instead of five.
Hmm.
Um, I had a new editor at some point that my other editor left, so that was a you know an adjustment. I also had like everything that hit me. I had COVID. I had my computer died. I had to buy two new computers to fix it. I had to do extra conventions or whatever. Like, so I ended up being late.
Hmm.
But especially as I got to issues 6, 7, and 8, I felt really stressed. Like, started to work through weekends. Just, I knew that I wasn't at my best, and I felt myself like losing my temper more. Or with my wife, I would start to notice I was about to lose my temper, and I would be like, "Oh, fought it." So I would
Hmm.
like, so I wasn't like yelling and screaming and being an asshole, but I knew I had been through enough therapy to know I was fragile. And I tried my best to be patient and take a breath and whatever. And yeah, it's kind of silly because this is just comic books and it's kind of fun and silly and shouldn't stress anybody out, but it
Job's a
is.
job.
But yeah, you put your life into it and all that.
How do you feel at the end of it? Do you feel like you accomplished what you wanted to do with the story?
Um, yeah, I have some. I think I'm 90% happy. There's 10% stuff I wish I had not done.
Hmm.
Whether it's a few panels I could redraw or making Jason the first Robin. I'm still not convinced that was a great idea, even though we
It was,
saw it
it
through.
was a great idea for me.
It's true. I was thinking about someone asked me today, how would I cast Batman Beyond, the White Knight?
Hmm.
And I thought about what if Chris O'Donnell was Red Hood?
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, that's the kind of thing that people are into these days. So
yeah,
even though those movies have their reputations,
right.
if he showed up as Robin, I bet people would
Yeah.
enjoy it.
If I was Chris O'Donnell's agent, I would like take 6 months, get your ripped six pack, do a Chris Pratt selfie, and then just announce that you're going to be Robin. Like, boom.
Just yeah, just do it. Just
Yeah.
announce it.
I mean, I think that would get a lot of traction.
Yeah.
I thought he was a pretty good, convincing Robin, honestly.
Yeah, he wasn't bad.
Yeah.
He's well, that's a whole lot of confusion. Um but yeah, you are this story in particular, I know when you were starting it out, um I think probably the biggest note that I had was it was very busy. There, you had a lot of threads going that
Yeah.
you were bringing over from the previous two
Right.
volumes. Do you feel like the final version was? Um, are you satisfied with the way you tied everything up? Do you think there was too much stuff? Do you think there was not
Yeah.
enough?
I'm pretty much happy with it, but with issue 8, I think issue 8 could have been like 48 pages,
Sure.
honestly.
Yeah.
Um, by checking the boxes of things that had to get done. You have an assault on Powers' building. You have a whole, GTOs attacking. You GCPD is fighting back. You've got Batman, Red Hood. I mean, there's like there's a try, um, three-prong assault. I think. there's a lot, and you want to get in the big action moments and the set piece, the wow moments, and all that, and then you want to wrap up with some kind of heart, some kind of meaning to it all. And I use a voiceover for one page, which I never thought I would do, which you convinced me would be a good idea.
Yeah, that sucks. You can blame me for that.
No, yeah. No, at one point, Bruce is concussed, and this is the moment where he needs to become Batman, where Harley brought the cowl, and in order to get out of his panic attack, she puts the cowl on him or gives it to him, and he realizes that Batman is his true identity and it's his salvation, and it helps him defeat his panic attack, which is kind of the moment we've been building towards for the whole
Mhm.
series. But could have used 3 more pages to really dive into that.
Yeah, it was very abrupt
It
in
was
the
very
first
abrupt.
couple. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a lot. I mean, I wish I had space, so I originally had it drafted in the last issue. Um, Bad Powers is defeated, the threat is eliminated, and they find that there's a bunch of Batman Beyond suits of
Hmm.
different colors. So Jason Todd wears one, Dan wins one, Barbara and they all have different versions of a Batman Beyond suit. So Barbara's is like, orange because she's a redhead. And Jason's is whatever, it has a red whatever, like I don't even know. But it
Hmm.
would basically be like Batman Beyond Power Rangers,
Right.
where and the
Sure.
sequel would be called Batmen Beyond. And I would come up with a way to explain that there are women in Batman suit. That would be a tongue-in-cheek way to deal with that.
Hey, the X-Men don't have to explain it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what she would have said. I had that. I had a few other ideas to like lend themselves to spin-offs and stuff, but I feel like I always leave like 15% on the shelf where I didn't get around to getting to it. But I
Yeah.
don't know why I get ambitious or I have so many ideas and
Hmm.
I keep designing a series to be not jumbled and to try to keep it simple and clean. And
Hmm.
inevitably, I just complicate it along the way. So, I'm still kind of a new writer, so this is something I'm trying to get better at.
Yeah, it's interesting to me too, because when you sent me the first breakdown for the whole series, and I think I mentioned this before in a previous thing when we were talking about it way back. Uh, what I kind of suggested is maybe we take Terry out of this
Yeah,
because there was so much, like you had so much really like meaty stuff
yeah.
going on with the Bat family from the other books
Hmm.
that adding Terry almost felt like, I was worried. I didn't know if he was going to get
Yeah,
the attention that he needed.
you're right. Yeah.
Um,
And he doesn't for most of it.
yeah, but I think you found a way to work him in there that makes it,
Yeah,
blend in with all the other stuff you have going
yeah.
on.
But you're right. I agree with you. It's everything's fine, but it's all truncated. Here's a truncated version of Terry. Here's a truncated version of Red Hood. I mean, everything is like, this is a good 80% of what you want.
Mhm.
Because there's so many characters getting their 80%, nobody gets 100%. And I wonder if other writers who tackle team books run into this too, you
Mm,
know?
yeah,
But a lot of the heavy lifting is done with depending on people to know what Terry was supposed to be
sure.
because they
Yeah.
have a familiarity with the series. Now that you could say that's lazy writing, and you're not wrong, but the book has always been designed to be like a spin-off
Mm,
of the cartoon in a way. So I don't know, you
yeah.
know.
Well, the thing about it is like you mentioned writing team books, and that was kind of essentially what you were doing, but they weren't a team until the end.
Yeah,
And so you don't have that sort of shorthand that you
yeah,
would get where it's like, okay, this is the Justice League, they're a team.
right.
You can kind of delegate your roles for
Yeah,
the story appropriately because they're a single unit.
right.
You don't become a single unit until issue
Yeah,
of 8.
you're right. Yeah, it's right at the
So
end.
you have to spend a lot of calories on getting them to that point,
Right.
which is, it's a lot of place to spend.
Yeah. Wow. It's weird, man. I really don't know myself as a writer like real writers do. I mean, real writers in comics put out 4 books a month, and
Yeah.
they have a tell. A lot of people will read a Tom King book, and I go, "Oh, Tom always does X, Y, and Z."
Hmm.
And I don't. When you're writing and drawing, you just inevitably go slower because you only do 1 book a year.
Hmm.
So you only get. I'm 3 books in 5 years. So what's my tell? You don't know because I'm not producing the volume that Tom King is.
Right.
Um, I guess maybe my tell as a writer is writing stuff that's very meta.
Hmm.
Um, my Batman book is about Batman legacy through the eyes of Batman. It's about his mistakes and his successes, and you talk about it. It seems to encompass decades, which is impossible because no one lives that long and it's in shape of Batman.
Right.
But it's sort of just sort of give it a pass because it's a comic.
Hmm.
Um, Even plot holes is very meta because you have a book about a team who's they're all fictional characters and they realize it. And,
Right.
um, the Zorro book I'm doing is about a guy who loves the legacy of Zorro. Like
Sure.
everything I'm writing is it's like a commentary on itself in
Hmm.
a way. I don't
Hmm.
even I'm not even after that. That just seems to be the thing that I just trip up on every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel like volume one of Batman was here's my critique of Batman. I love it, but here's some plot holes that I noticed, and here's how to have fun with them. And then volume two was okay, I understand my Batman. People want a sequel, so let's go even deeper into the Waynes. What if
Hmm.
Bruce wasn't even a Wayne? Let's take everything away from him? And I think first, I like it a lot, but a lot of people were more of a fan of the first volume. And I think that the second volume, because it delved into deep history and historicity of it, I don't think that's everybody's jam.
Sure.
Not everyone loves the History Channel or
Yeah.
Pirates or whatever. And volume three for me was probably the best paced, cleanest, most fun because you have Joker who's sidekick, and
Yeah.
I've never seen Joker like that. But the trick with three was there really wasn't a bad guy because at the end you realize that Powers, he is the antagonist, but he was driven for a specific reason, and he's not wrong.
Hmm.
So you have a volume three was about misunderstandings for the most part, which
Mm.
can be tricky. And I'm not sure if it worked or not. I know I enjoyed it, but man, I gotta like read all the issues together to see if it even worked, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I would be able to do that if it was not.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't do it,
No,
but
yeah,
it's like
no,
I'm one of those people where it's like when it's done,
yeah,
I barely even want to look at it.
right.
Although I will say, when you do look at it and you come away and you go, yeah, that's pretty good. It feels good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's did you have is one of the volumes did you have the was your which one is your favorite to work on?
Mhm. I think three has the best art. I think I slowed down for the first five issues, so I was really able to bring my A game to
Hmm.
as many pages as possible. Um, Two was the riskiest of reinventing the Waynes and saying he's not a Wayne. I have a story where Batman goes to jail. And I'm
Right.
expecting people to enjoy that. Like that's a bad idea for a book. I mean, it's a risky idea
Sure.
for
Sure.
sales.
Yeah.
Uh, and one was like, yeah, Batman. Here's all my ideas. I'm gonna cram in Mr. Freeze, and like, great. This is the last time I'm ever doing Batman. Clearly,
Yeah, you got to throw it at the wall. It might be your only shot. You got to
yeah.
try.
No, I don't blame people. I mean, the way that publishers design series, like, I don't blame writers who just try to throw all their great ideas at the first book because you don't know if you're gonna get a second chance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting series because they are all three very different books. And it is I'll be honest, it's a little bit difficult to write Batman for someone else
yeah,
because in my head I'm thinking, okay, it's your universe, so I'm seeing your Gotham City,
yeah,
and so I'm writing like, oh, this is Gotham, and as you can see this and blah blah blah, and then you get it back, and it's like, oh, okay, and then I was like, well, no, nobody's gonna draw it like Sean does. They got stuff to do. It's funny to try and it's interesting to see your Gotham and your characters put through the lens of another artist.
right,
Um,
yeah,
because some things transfer beautifully
yeah,
to the strength of the artist, and others not so much. But it's
yeah,
not a bad thing. It's
yeah.
just different sensibilities.
Yeah, no, it's funny hiring artists for this book. I've learned a lot about how to work with artists and why some writers get frustrated by some artists not reading the script. I'm
Mm.
not naming names. Um, But it's funny. So my wife wrote a scene that she wanted to talk about why Joker calls Harley Puddin, or vice versa. So she had a flashback with Joker and Harley at a fair carnival, and somebody orders pudding, and we sent it to Mateo, and I don't know what the Italian word for pudding is, um, but he draws like an ice cream with cherry on top, blah blah blah.
Hmm.
And Colleen comes to me. She's like, "Oh man, I wanted pudding, and Mateo drew ice cream or like frozen yogurt or something." And I'm looking at the panel. I'm like, it looks great because Mateo doesn't draw anything poorly.
Right.
Technically, it's not pudding. But I was trying to explain to her too, like, listen, Mateo is one of the best talents in the history of comics. He's done so much heavy lifting for other things in your scenes, whatever. Like I know an artist, and it's the reason why he's a good friend of mine. Okay, so he did draw Puddin correctly. As long as she's fire, if you're getting a B plus out of your artist, you're way ahead of the game.
Yeah.
She was getting an A or an A plus out of him, minus one panel of Puddin. And I was trying to explain to her it's not a big deal, but she doesn't know what she doesn't know. And
Well, she did say she'd never work with him again, though.
that's true, yeah.
Yeah.
And she hates him and his baby.
Specifically the baby.
But it's funny because other people she's worked with outside of DC
Hmm.
now, she's working with a lot of other artists, and she's like, "Oh my God, I wish I had Mateo." Where the only mistake he made was not drawing pudding correctly,
Yeah.
and I'm
Yeah.
like, "Welcome to the business."
Yeah. It's an interesting type. Well, tightrope isn't there? Like you said, it's a collaborative process,
Yeah,
and there's only so much I think you can expect
yeah,
to because you're basically playing a game of, and the more people who are involved, the harder this becomes. But
yeah,
you're basically playing a game of telephone between
yeah.
four different departments,
Right.
and if it comes out as an A, it's
Yeah,
a miracle.
yeah,
And so I think the more you get used to doing it, the more you're kind of like, okay, pick your battles. You understand
right.
what's important, and if you get, like you've said many times, you get 90% of it, comes a win.
Yeah, yeah. I told you, as long as you're getting B plus, that's probably you need to let go of 10% of your battles,
Right.
honestly. Um, Yeah, I mean, it's funny when I write for myself, I'll just write. Most of my panels are and another angle, and another angle.
Yeah,
Batman.
it's really interesting because like when I read your scripts, they're pretty sparse
Yeah,
in that regard, but I don't really question it
right,
because I know that you know what you want to do.
right.
But there are certain questions that editors will ask
Yeah,
where I've thought like, oh well, I mean, I don't really know if that's necessary to put in the script, but like, well, if it's writing for somebody else, then maybe the
yeah,
detail is necessary. So it's an interesting dichotomy
yeah,
reading your scripts
yeah.
versus scripts for other people.
Like the way I wrote for Klaus for Von Fries.
Mhm.
I couldn't write and another angle.
Right,
I have to explain myself. I also don't want to tell people where to put the camera. No,
right.
you don't have
That's
to
the
do that.
trick when you're writing for an artist
Yeah,
is to be clear but not hamstring them
right.
to
Yeah,
you're not giving them line readings as they say
right.
for a movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, no, the worry I have now is like any I don't get I worry I don't get enough pushback from my editors because I've been doing this for 5 years,
Mhm.
and to them I am quote Sean Murphy, and they're not going to push back a lot because they're younger than me. They haven't been doing this as long as I have.
Mhm.
They're happy to be on this project that's going to sell. It's sort of a career maker for some people.
Mhm.
So who's going to question me? And I'm not that type of creator. Like I would rather be questioned in a fair way. I'd rather have pushback. Like I'm not the guy that gets bent in shape about that stuff. Um,
And
so
you
I
know that I have no problem doing
yeah, I
that.
know
So,
you do, even when I don't want you to. No, I yeah, I would rather have honesty, and I'd rather be have people challenge me because like my ego is based in art. If you give me criticism on my art, I'm probably going to be less friendly about it.
mhm.
Because that's where I've earned my bones. I have opinions and this and that. And when I'm writing, I feel like I'm doing an extra job that I'm happy to be doing for a while, but I don't claim to be a real writer. I don't have my ego based in writing.
Mhm.
I'll send you stuff, and my drafts are like I'll even write to you like, I feel like this is 80% there.
Hmm.
And I know it's not perfect, and I'm willing to get some pushback because I'm not really emotionally connected to as many things as I am with my art.
Hmm.
If you critique my art, I'll say, go fuck yourself. I become a regular comic book writer. But when it comes to my scripts, I'm happy to take feedback, and I'm like, say, hey man, whatever you think. If the character does this or that, or if you write a great line, be like, hey, do you mind if I take that?
Hmm.
Like, I'm very amenable to a lot of changes when it comes to my scripts because I feel like I'm kind of joking my way into it. You know,
Hmm.
like I'm kind of no one's calling me on my shit. I'm kind of a writer, and things kind of are selling, so I guess I'll just sort of follow this lead. But I'm not. I don't know. I guess I'm restating it now.
Well, I think I can say that from working on your books, most of the changes, very rarely are they like complete structural changes
Yeah.
that would require you to like reform
Yeah.
multiple pages. So most of the time when I go through your stuff, it's to a point where you're like, okay, well, it's enough that I can start drawing
Right.
because a lot of this stuff is can be hacked out in dialogue
Right.
and all that kind of stuff. Um, it's the thing, and this is something that's I find unique to comics.
Hmm.
Um, because let's say if you come across something in a script that's like, let's say it's a 3-page scene, page 7, 8, and 9, right?
Hmm.
And it's not working and it needs to be changed and it
Right.
needs to be shifted or moved. It's not a movie script where you can just note card that, move it, and then shift it to a different part of the movie. It's not like a novel where you can just kind of like, all right, well, that doesn't affect anything else structurally.
Yeah.
In comics, that affects the structure of your whole issue.
Hmm.
Because if you've got 3 pages in the middle that are dependent on things that happen on either side of each
Right.
other, that have a certain number of panels built into how to execute these things,
Yeah.
then you have to really kind of crack the whole book open again.
Yeah.
Because you've got, okay, well, so for instance, I'm working on this thing now where it's kind of like a bit of a timeline jumping back and forth.
This is Jim Joker.
No, this is wrestling book I'm writing.
Yeah.
And we were debating whether or not we should, instead of jumping back and forth through the issue, kind of like bookend
Hmm.
things. And I'm happy to do that, but the way that I wrote it, jumping back and forth, is kind of like intertwined as far as transitions go and how certain dialogue and images lead into other ones. And if I just, copy paste on either end of the issue,
Yeah.
everything in the middle that was leading into and out of those scenes is now loose ends that need to be adjusted. You can't
Right.
just move them around.
Yeah.
So I find it very unique to comics where
Yeah.
changing writing structurally can be a much bigger job than it feels like.
Yeah, it's kind of like a song where if an issue is a song that's in an album, the issue should be mostly a a plot, which is the refrain of the song.
Hmm.
You can put one guitar solo or maybe two in that issue, but you have to space them apart. You can't touch,
Yeah.
and you have a few other bits of song. But it has to. There's only so much movement you could do with each scene.
Mm.
There are times when you can shove two scenes together and then have a guitar solo after. This is a very tortured metaphor. I apologize.
I know, I'm just letting you go.
You know what I mean, though?
Sure.
That's
Eddie Van Halen didn't learn how to read music. I get you.
literally what I said. No, I think about that a lot too because I've been writing. I've been telling my wife to write inset panels to artists,
Mm.
and I have no idea. So few artists know what an inset panel is, and now I'm wondering, did I invent this? Um,
I know because I knew what they were. I never questioned those in your script, but I've noticed that too. Is
right.
that
So
that's been a weird hurdle to
right.
jump.
So
Yeah.
even with again, Mateo is an amazing artist. He only fucked up the pudding, and even then he didn't do that bad of a job. But I would write only my wife would write for him inset panel, which means you have a panel that's the size of a stamp. It's usually something small, quick, no dialogue. It has to be like Batman pulling out a batarang or a
Mhm.
guy lighting a cigarette or a light switch, something real simple. If you have an inset panel and a 6 panel page, it makes it a 7 panel page. An editor will say, ooh, 7 panels is
Yeah.
kind of a lot. Be careful. It's like, no, 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 no. This is a normal 6 panel page. It just happens to be an inset.
Right.
If you give that to an artist who doesn't know what that is, you're gonna have a cigarette lighting inset panel as a splash, and
Yes.
like it's like no, 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 no. There's way too much real estate on the cigarette now. So we would tell people do the cigarette panel as an inset. and no one really knows what that is.
Yeah.
And I got it from like Chris Ware,
Hmm.
panel one, snow falling on power lines. Panel two, slightly more snow. Panel three, slightly more snow. And there's
Right.
like
Right.
12 panels on the page. Like it works if you know what you're doing, but most artists, I don't know, they just don't know what those are.
Yeah. Yeah. I see them a lot in uh Mike Mignola's stuff
Oh,
because he'll
yeah.
always have an inset panel of like a bird or a skull or something.
Yeah. No, what I love about Hellboy is you have Hellboy, every great Hellboy page has like Hellboy stepping on a rock. Panel two, he's looking at his watch. Panel three, there's a noose by the moon. Panel four, there's a corpse in the noose,
Yeah.
in the noose. And it works. And I just assumed that everybody knew what inset panels were. I think I just need to write a book on how to do inset panels.
Hey, I mean that could be the next step. Cash in, write a how to draw comics.
How to draw comics the Murphy way.
Yeah. That'd be
So
the thing.
pretentious.
Yeah. So do you want me to wait to put this out until the last issue comes out? When's the last issue come out?
Let's talk about the last issue.
Okay, sure.
So, the big spoiler of the last issue is we introduce Superman and Diana Prince and John Stewart. And just as the finale of the book comes together and Bruce realizes that uh, he is Batman and that Batman belongs to everybody in the Bat family, um, Wonder Woman basically shows up and is like, before you walk off into the sunset, you're technically still a wanted man, but we'll make you a deal. I work for the FBI. She's not Wonder Woman yet. She's just Diana Prince. And she's like, there's this thing that we don't know how to deal with. There's this kid in Kansas that can do some amazing shit, and we need your help. So she shows him some footage of Clark Kent in the Superman outfit flying over fields. And with her is Agent John Stewart. So what we're going to go into for Volume 4 is setting up the Justice League, basically.
Hmm.
And what I want to do is do a Justice League. No one has superpowers yet. They're all Bruce Wayne is the only superhero that they know. Superhero in quotes. Clark Kent is, obviously more of a superhero.
Hmm.
So the first half of the book will be Clark being investigated by Bruce, and Bruce figuring out how paranoid about how much of a threat Clark is, and all Bruce's defenses in his head kick in, and he just sees like, I have to take this kid down. This
Hmm.
kid's too much of a threat. Even if the kid seems nice, doesn't matter. This kid's a threat. So he figures out a way to suck Clark's powers away from him and uses the Fortress of Solitude like in Superman 2.
Hmm.
Um, when he does that, he sets off a beacon and he realizes a bunch of Kryptonians are headed to Earth and they probably mean business. And Bruce, fortunately, neutralized the only kid that could have stood a chance here.
Hmm.
So for the second half of the book, he and Clark have to team up. Um, so Bruce is in his 60s, Clark is early 20s, and it's sort of like, um, yeah, this pairing of two people that don't like each other and don't get along, which is the best part of what World's Finest is, honestly.
Right, yeah. Hmm.
But you know, I want to do the book. Um, I can, but I know DC wants me to, but I'm not sure when I'm going to have the time to, or whether I will or not. And then they have these spin-off series which they want, and the industry's in a weird spot right now. I
Yeah.
don't have to go too much into it, but
Yeah.
I did a trilogy. I'm happy with what I did, so we might not get to this, but this is sort of what I would do if there was a volume four.
Yeah. It's going to be on the Murphyverse Wikipedia entry, which I learned the other day was a thing.
Oh yeah.
It
What
has
is
a
is it
lot of books listed there that we mentioned in passing, and it
You're
never
good. Good copy, man. I heard your Catwoman's coming out. When's that due?
There was when we were in San Diego, we were doing an interview,
Yeah,
and I don't know how it came up, but you teed me up for this Catwoman thing,
sure.
and I didn't really want to see much about it because I didn't think it was ever going to happen. And so, I kind of gave a half-hearted answer, and you mentioned the wrestling thing,
Yeah.
and then someone just last week tweeted at me. He was like, "So when's Catwoman coming out?" I was like, "Oh, it's not up to me." Blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, well, it says on the Wikipedia that it's happening." I was like, "What?" And so I went there, and it said announced series, Batman White Knight,
Yeah.
Catwoman, written by me. And then I went to the citing
Yeah.
link and I clicked on it, and it went to someone had cut out just that section of the interview we had
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
And the headline of the interview, the article they wrote around that,
Mhm.
it's like 4 line cutout from our interview,
Yeah.
is Catwoman is officially a professional wrestler in the White Knight universe. I was like, I didn't even know this existed. It's a whole article written about this.
Well, it's you own it now. If someone does Catwoman wrestling book, we can claim the reference off.
There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's as good as copyright.
Well, you are a guy who complains because you were saying before we started recording, you hate because you have a lot of great ideas, and you're finding lately a lot of your great ideas are being taken by other people.
I have a lot of ideas.
Okay.
I don't want to say that they're great ideas.
All right.
Because if the ones that are similar aren't good, I don't want to take any
Right.
credit for it.
Leave yourself an out, man.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's something that happens with everybody who's creative,
You know, especially you.
especially me. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's everybody's kind of working in the same like pop culture. Things are in the air. You pull something down, someone else is bound to pull it down.
Right.
It doesn't make it not frustrating when it happens.
Right.
I understand why it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Man.
But I have like 4 other pitches that we can go over if you have time.
I actually had a one-shot pitch for you for White Knight.
Oh, really?
I'll tell you right now.
Okay.
And I'm not saying this is going to happen because I keep saying I'm done doing spinoffs, but I keep
hmm
having ideas for them.
hmm
What if you do a Clayface spinoff, but you talk about the history of cinema and what it means to Clayface as an actor,
Ooh, interesting.
and you go from like the golden age of cinema and like his he loved uh fuck what's his name?
Vincent Price,
Sure, yeah, Errol Flynn, all these
Lon
guys.
Chaney,
So you get to you can't talk about famous types of movies, but you need to change the names ever so
sure.
slightly and what it meant to
John
Clay.
Laney.
Thank you. But I, because I was such a film buff, I thought, man, Clay did a story about Clayface. At the end, Clayface has to die, but you have to give him birth by talking about his history of film, which is your bread and butter. I feel like you'd be all over that.
That would be cool.
Yeah, but we might not do it. So excellent.
Hey, man, nothing's stopping me from pitching it, I guess.
Here, there you
There's
go.
no reason why we can't do it. Put your name on it and sign the check. We'll be doing it myself.
We're up there with drive-in movie theater, buried Indian reservation.
Yeah, yeah.
A quick side note: there's a local drive-in theater, movie theater here in New Hampshire, and they were trying to sell it. When they started digging, they literally found Indian burial ground underneath it. And I thought, man, why hasn't there been a movie about Indian burial grounds and drive-ins? And I just told Clayton about it recently, and hopefully he'll do something with it
Yeah,
for White Knight.
yeah. I need to work on the third act of the idea. But,
Yeah, it's fine.
is there anything else you wanted to talk about regarding White Knight or the future or the history of it before we wrap up?
Uh, Man, usually this goes an hour. We only have 48 minutes here. I can't think of anything else. Oh, I do wish that I did not make Jason Todd the first Robin.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it lended some possibilities of plot and some interesting things to say, but I feel like it continues to throw people off. When I look online,
Yeah.
look at reviews or comments on it, some people love it. They see that it's a nice way to explore new possibilities. But other people that are new to the series just have this like record scratch thing, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it was worth it.
I mean, it's. I think it's more interesting now that we've had time to sit with it and kind of explore it a little bit.
Yeah,
I find it more interesting than if you had done it the normal way.
yeah,
Because it keeping Jason's story relatively the same, just flipping the order,
yeah,
really changes the whole dynamic between Batman and Robin as an entity,
yeah,
in addition to Jason and Dick.
yeah.
And you get that. I almost think the whole thing's worth it just for this having the scene where Jason goes back to the Wayne Manor and
Right.
sees he's been replaced
Yeah.
because that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah.
That's not something
Yeah.
I feel like you've ever seen in a
Yeah.
Batman story before.
It's fair, man. When he sees Bruce fencing with another Robin with Dick, like Jason didn't even exist.
Yeah,
Um,
because traditionally, I mean,
yeah,
Robins get replaced when they eventually leave or well die.
right.
There's never really that moment where
Yeah,
someone gets lost in battle,
right.
and then Batman just moves on.
Yeah,
So you don't get that sort of
yeah.
um
That makes me want to go back and talk about that more, honestly.
yeah.
'Cause I'd like to talk about how I know that you did a quick um, summary of Jason. He was trying to steal Batmobile hubcaps and
Mhm.
Batman found him. But that's such a quick flashback. I think it'd be interesting to see that played out because in in our in my universe, Jason was sort of an accidental Robin.
Mm,
Bruce didn't choose to create a Robin. He just sort of tripped upon Jason, and he became convinced. Oh, I guess I could use some help,
mm,
and he sort of started training him. Whereas when he died, or supposedly died, Bruce chose to replace him with another Robin, but that was Bruce's choice, not Dick's.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad. I just know that it's different. We don't really see that in Gotham.
yeah. Did I ever tell you my pitch for putting Red Hood into the Matt Reeves the Batman movies
No, let's hear it.
with Red Hood as the first Robin? Basically, my thought was do it like Goldeneye. And so you have, man, Batman, and when that movie starts, he's been working for 2 years, right?
Mhm.
And so you do a flashback at the beginning where Batman, in his early days,
Yeah,
meets up with Jason Todd. They're about the same age,
right,
and they start going into this together. And so are Batman and Red Hood, or
right.
Robin, or however you want to frame it. And Red Hood gets killed, quote unquote, by the Joker, which is why the Joker is in jail
Yeah,
in the first movie. And so then you do the GoldenEye thing where he thinks he's been dead, and then this other villain shows up, and it turns out to be his friend who he thought was dead and stuff like that. So
yeah,
it could be an interesting way that you could get
yeah,
because there's no Robins in these movies. It's crazy.
yeah.
Bane has been in as many movies as Robin has, and it's fucking nuts.
Well, let's talk about the Gunverse.
So, oh yeah,
So
weird choices.
so we're done talking about the thing we're going to talk about. Let's start a new conversation. James
We
Gunn.
got an hour and a half quote we have to.
So I didn't read it, but I was listening to the podcast on the drive into New Hampshire,
Mhm.
caught up in what James Gunn said. It's funny because he doesn't want it called the Gunverse, but I feel like it's just so easy to call it that.
Yeah,
And
it's probably gonna happen.
it does hand wave. I mean, he basically says, from what I understand, Snyderverse didn't work. You know, of halfway through the Justice League, he had this weird change of direction where the suits took over and his daughter died.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so I'm not saying he's a good director or not. I'm just saying it's a different direction.
yeah.
Um, but some of the changes he's making, they're shocking. They're weird. I don't know if I like them, but if I was in charge, I would say green light because
Yeah.
they're different.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Um, I I find it the thing I find that I enjoy the most about the Marvel and DC cinematic universes
Yeah.
is that they very much mirror the comics in that Marvel has a really good handle on all their continuity, and DC it's just a complete cluster. And then sometimes they're going in one direction and they blow everything up, and they have to.
Wait,
If you want to stop and get a
that's
towel,
fine. I spilled water. Whatever, man. This is authentic podcasting.
yeah. And they take a hard left turn, and when things aren't working, they go, let's delete half of it, not everything. Won't be a fresh start. But it's a weird slate of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the first thing he talked about was
Wow.
Preacher Commandos,
Creature Commandos.
a
Yep.
cartoon, which is not even I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
But
And then there's
sure,
Frankenstein.
yeah, he's part of that group, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. You have the Waller. He wants to do a.
Sounds like it could be pretty cool.
Oh yeah.
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 Okay.
Henry Cavill has not been fired, but Superman has been recast.
Oh, I
So
hadn't heard
it's
that.
yeah. I mean, so
I think was it not been fired mean like mutually parted ways, or he is somehow still in the fold?
Well, so it's a word game,
Okay.
but the way I heard it described in this podcast was James Gunn has a certain idea of characters, and his version of Superman, he would not have cast Henry Cavill in his version of Superman.
Mhm.
So Cavill is not fired from being Superman, but Gunn would prefer to hire somebody else to play his version of Superman.
Sure.
But you know what? Honestly, if they do a Kingdom Come movie or something, like I'll bet Cavill comes back to play Superman.
That'd be pretty
It's
rich.
like I think Pierce Brosnan is going to come back for Old Man Bond at some point.
That'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the one that they really haven't. They've never done an old man Bond.
And they just killed off Daniel Craig. If
Yeah.
I was in charge, I would do Old Man Bond with
Pierce
Pierce
Brosnan.
Brosnan.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you hear that pitch from years ago that it's something that was going around for a while, this idea that 007 is just a code name and all the Bonds are actually different people?
No.
Yeah, and so the pitch for this James Bond movie was it opens up with Roger Moore. And Roger Moore is like, on some island somewhere. And then all of a sudden this assassin shows up and kills Roger Moore. And so it turns out that
That's Timothy Dalton.
it's Timothy Dalton. Yeah. It's Timothy Dalton going around killing the other 007s. I'm sorry, James Bond is a code name. Sorry, that's
Yeah,
what.
yeah.
And so James Bond is actually a bunch of different people.
Right. So 007 isn't the code name, it's James
James
Bond.
Bond is, yes. And so it's one of the previous James Bonds is now assassinating all of the other previous James Bonds.
That's good.
It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a weird mix. The one that kind of threw me was he was talking about a Green Lantern show
Hmm.
that he likened to True Detective and said it was,
I haven't heard this.
yeah, he called it a terrestrial based show about two space cops. And I
Hmm.
was like, that sounds kind of contradictory, but
Right.
it's
So
going to be like Hal Jordan and James
yeah.
Stewart.
So there's there's a Supergirl movie based on a Tom King book.
That book is really good.
So it was 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Like, very fresh.
it's a good book.
And then there was some Grant Morrison stuff worked in there from I mean when he tweeted about this, he actually posted a Grant Morrison cover of some kind.
Yeah, he
Like
talked about
lately.
his Superman movie, the Superman Legacy, and the picture that he chose was from All Star Superman. Yeah,
Yeah. Which is an older Superman.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's Grant Morrison, so it's like it's Superman at the end of his life. Let's put it that way. I don't know how old he is, but
Okay. Yeah.
and he wants to do the thing that I found really interesting is he finally wants to do a Batman and Robin movie,
Mhm.
but he's using Damian
Yeah.
and just jumping all the other guys. If I was Tim Drake, I'd be pissed off.
Well, so the thing is, he could skip forward to Damien. Doesn't mean the other Robins didn't happen.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. That's a good point.
But what's interesting about this is, so when I first saw 300, I like 300,
Mhm.
and then I heard they're going to give this guy the keys to the DCU, and I thought, I don't think Zack Snyder's a great director or storyteller. I think his director of photography is amazing,
Mhm.
doing slow mo shit, but I'm like, DC cannot get into bed with this guy. And I feel like what I've watched played out in the last 10 years is exactly what I was worried about. From Watchmen to Superman to the DCU stuff and whatever. Um, uh, I don't know. My 2 cents is I'm glad that there's so James Gunn in his interview said he talked about Batgirl, the movie, and he said something to the effect of it wasn't good, it wasn't, so he got rid of it. So it's nice to hear somebody say that clearly. This project did not represent the new DCU. We're getting rid of it. We
Mhm.
couldn't even fix it. There's no judgment on the movie or the actors or the screenwriter, whatever it is. Um, I don't know. I guess it is, but it's because DC has and Warner have not wanted to come out and actually address this.
Mhm.
This is the first time that someone in authority who had the power to set the record straight said, "Yeah, that movie wasn't good, so we got rid of it."
Oh, I hadn't
And
heard
then
that. I'll have to look
then
that
he
up.
said, "We're going to do this. We're going to do Waller. We're going to do blah 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 blah." It's nice to see somebody who has the power be able to say things that are black and white and clear and put the universe in a different direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just nice to get that kind of clarity.
Yeah. It is strange though because like it still comes at the end of these like $1 billion worth of movies that they've made that haven't come out yet. but
Wow.
they just can't shit can. And so
What's coming out that they can't shit can?
so in the thing that he talked about Flash, where he said Flash is going to reshape the whole
Yeah,
universe.
Flash is the new beginning of his of the
Yeah,
universe.
but then after Flash, Aquaman 2 is still coming out.
Oh, that's weird.
Blue Beetle is still coming out,
Yeah.
and I think there's one more. Shazam 2 is still coming out,
Okay.
and those are apparently
Yeah.
under the umbrella.
So Shazam is so disconnected that it can kind of survive without it
Yeah,
doesn't get
I think so.
just talking about what is so connected to Snyder that has to be canceled versus what is healthily disconnected from Snyder that can
Yeah.
survive. And I think Shazam can survive. I'm surprised Flash can survive, but whatever.
Honestly, at this point, given what that movie is supposedly about, I hope they put out a version that's like 3 hours and 50 minutes long, and it's everything they've shot for that movie. All of the stuff they've cut and reshot and
So
cut and
wait.
reshot.
Is Keaton in this stuff?
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm down for that too.
yeah. But like they supposedly shot more footage with Henry Cavill and Ben Affleck that I think they have now taken out because
Right.
that they shit canned all that stuff. I just want to see all of it. Just throw it all in there. I don't care.
So is Cavill stuff removed?
I don't know. We'll see. I what I had heard was the movie stood as it did with Michael Keaton moving forward as the new Batman of the DC universe.
Yeah.
Um, after I forget what happened, but in around the time that Black Adam came out and supposedly Cavill was back as Superman, they went back in
Right.
and cut Keaton's role down and replaced him with Ben Affleck. And then also brought in Superman as Cavill as Superman to take a lot of the stuff that they were doing with Supergirl in that movie.
Right.
And now that those two are both gone again, I'm assuming that stuff's coming back out.
Right.
So I don't know what's going on,
Right.
but I'm really looking forward to seeing it. Might be my most anticipated movie of the year, Frank.
Hold on. If it's Keaton, I'm anticipating it.
You're not like morbidly curious as to what the hell this thing's going to look like?
I'm curious as to Keaton's contributions to it, but I don't know. I mean, Affleck hasn't been Batman since 2018.
Mhm.
To bring him back now is strange.
I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who
But
knows?
I mean, what you're describing is like I can't not look at a car accident
Yeah,
as I've been sitting in traffic for 2 hours.
yeah,
I might as well stare at the dead bodies.
yeah.
It's not a thing though.
I might be. What if it's a really well composed car crash?
See, you're such a student of cinema and a fan and a collector and absorber of this stuff. Like I can see why you're interested in it.
That's like you don't find it like at all interesting
I
knowing the backstory of where this movie has come from just to see what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I want to see the documentary of it. I don't want to see the patched up Band-Aid version of this garbage in theaters if it's going to hurt companies that are making it.
Hmm.
That's my worry. So I don't want to see the patched together bullshit Snyder version mix up to try to salvage the crap that they've been trying to produce. I want to see the Superman Returns documentary.
Hmm. I want to see both.
Yeah.
I want to see the movie.
Well, see the thing is, a documentary is entertaining. It doesn't hurt the studio.
Hmm.
You want the stuff that you're talking about to come out as canon, it could hurt the studio.
They've been around for a long time.
Warner Brothers
Yeah, been around for over 100 years.
literally pays your bills.
They'll still be fine.
If any Warner Brothers lawyers are listening, I'm not really that close to playing.
The fate of the Flash movie does not affect my paycheck, and if it does, I understand.
If they see fit to fire you on this, like I think you have more power than you realized.
Yeah,
Oh no, man.
podcast for the rest of my life off of that.
Yeah, I don't know, man. What was your favorite Snyder contribution to the DCU?
Um, the first half of Man of Steel,
Yeah,
which I thought is legitimately good.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a good sci-fi movie.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think,
a first encounter type movie.
yeah, and I mean this has obviously been litigated to death already, but I think it's just like his his outlook on these characters was not what they needed at that time,
Hmm.
which is weird because the first half of Man of Steel is so like on the right track,
Yeah.
and then it just gets kind of cynical, and it stays cynical
Yeah.
through all the rest of the movies.
Yeah.
Um, it's
The
it's strange.
the bit with Henry Cavill as Clark on uh oil rigs saving
Oh, love it.
people, that's the best Superman has ever been.
Yes,
Maybe better than some of the Christopher Reeve stuff.
Superman or Clark Kent or however you want to
Yeah.
categorize it, holding the oil rig up
Hmm.
while it's burning is the best Superman I've seen since the
I felt,
Fleischer cartoons.
yeah.
Like that
Wow.
shit is amazing.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah, I agree. Stuff's really great. And I do feel bad for Cavill
Yeah.
for not getting to. It's not his fault that this happened.
No.
It's funny because when he was first cast, there was a lot of fan sent to his casting, and now everyone's on his side. Everyone
Yeah.
knows that the movies aren't bad because of him. Everyone loves him. If I was him, honestly, I wouldn't want to fuck with Superman anymore either. Like
Mm,
this franchise has made you a lot of promises, has been mishandled, and has burned you. If I was him, I would move on to Warhammer 2.
yeah.
And I would wait 10 years and I would say, I'm happy to come back for Kingdom Come. Like I would leverage my Pierce Brosnan, James Bond
That'll be.
or something.
I think the biggest surprise from the gun stuff is the Authority. I mean, I should
Oh
say
yeah,
it's a surprise, but it's not because that seems
yeah,
definitely up his alley, the Authority.
right.
Does
Does that mean
gonna be wild.
and Wildstorm?
Yeah, it's a Wildstorm book. Yeah.
Yeah. So if we get a grifter, I'd be pretty down with that. Yeah. It's the dumbest character, whatever.
Yeah, all those characters. I guess
He's got
someone
a
needs to
mask
write
that's
stories for
red.
them. It's a great design.
And the mask, I don't know if you know this, Clay. His mask hangs down over his face without being tucked in.
Is that what it is?
It's like blonde Deadpool who doesn't tuck his mask in.
Lazy is what he sounds like.
No, it's epic. And he has a army jacket of some
But he's
kind.
got a sweet coat.
And he was
Yeah,
kind of Vietnam, even though he's too young. All right, that's my best pitch.
yeah. That's not bad. And he works at a movie theater that's on Indian burial ground.
Yeah, no, I was hearing about the James Gunn stuff. I was half excited, half confused. But now that I've got distance from it, I think it's honestly the best idea I've heard
Yeah,
because I didn't think the ideas are going anywhere conducive at this point.
yeah. I mean, I trust the guy just because he seems to have a handle on.
Yeah,
He has a style, um,
it's
but
gonna.
he has a handle on these kind of characters, it seems, and he
Yeah,
knows how to write them with
yeah,
heart and pathos.
yeah,
Because I mean, if even just looking at the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, that's pretty
yeah.
clear. I think
Peacemaker.
Peacemaker.
Yeah, he's clearly a comic book fan. Like I don't know if Snyder was really a comic fan.
Hmm,
Um, James Gunn seems to have a vision with a capital V.
yeah,
I don't know if it's good or bad. Um, I mean, I think Guardians 1 is one of the top 5 best superhero movies ever.
yeah. Guardians one's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Peacemaker blew me away.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I hope for the best.
Yeah, me too. Um, yeah, I think we've
Hour and 8 minutes.
rambled on for long enough.
Yeah, we should have questions from viewers, but I guess we don't.
Yeah, we kind of did this haphazardly.
Yeah. All right, man.
But thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for reading the books we're putting out, and we'll see you next time on the podcast.
Thank you.